Ya le dije hola, ¿eh? Yo fui la que le abrí la puerta ya a María. Um, okay, we're back from our break. So, la Ms. Armendari. Well, I guess we're not back from our break yet, so. Okay, we're back from our break. Thank you for staying. So, Ms. Armendariz, I wrote down a couple of questions. However, since there are many, I just felt like it would be wise for me to wait until the end until you got done with the presentation. Okay. My first question is, and you don't have to go into great detail, but who put this plan together? Who and
With
like I
the,
said, you don't have to go into plenty of details, but who put this plan together?
with the input of who,
Yes.
input of, I'll show you. If you go to page number 4. The involvement process of who was involved. Sorry, it starts on page 3.
Mm-hmm.
We had general parent community meetings. We met with, or the team met with the English Learner Advisory Committee, meetings with certificated bargaining units, meeting with school site and district office administrators, and then meetings with classified bargaining units, with student groups and external community groups.
Okay.
So all the input from all these groups, is all part of this LCAP.
Okay. All right. My question number 1. I've been advocating for sports, and in no part of this plan doesn't mention sports. And being a product of Calexico High School, I know back in my day, we had all kinds of sports, and we had all my little brothers. They played elementary, and they played at junior high, and they had all kinds of sports. So there are no sports. So that's just a comment because we're going to deal with that hopefully throughout the summer. The my next question is: I keep hearing coordinators and coordinators, and I keep seeing coordinators and coordinators and coordinators, which are basically administrators, right?
Yes, for the EL coordinators.
Well, you mentioned
Yes.
coordinators at least 3 times.
Okay.
So, unless it's a coordinator,
There's 3, that's true.
what troubles me is that I keep hearing DO, DO. We don't need people here at DO. And I'm going to be brutally honest with you. We have you, we have Dr. Estrada, Ms. Montaño, and you chose to be administrators. Okay, so if some of this burden has to lie on you guys, so be it. This money, I feel that this money will be better spent out for activities out in the trenches. Okay, more CSEA personnel, more teachers on special assignment, direct services to our students. I don't need somebody doing more typing here at the district office. Okay, I don't need that, and I don't think this money is intended for that. And that's what I feel that a coordinator is going to be doing. Okay, number 2, you mentioned creating opportunities, and you even put up a sticker price on that, $222,000 or something like that. But you just keep mentioning that you're gonna create opportunities, but there's no plan. It doesn't tell me, and I looked at it, and it doesn't tell me how you're going to create these opportunities. So, I will go back. I will highlight those for you, and I will give it to Maria later. You also mentioned more opportunities for students to take AP exams and the SATs and the PSATs and the plan and all that, and that's great. And you also and the plan also mentions adding more sections of these classes, AVID, things like that, and that's great. So I think that was good. However, there's no mention of how is it that you're going to implement this. You keep talking about adding one more section. But how are you going to add one more section? Are you going to take away a teacher teaching regular work history to offer AP US history? You don't mention that, because you mentioned that you're going to offer these things, but you don't mention that you're going to offer new teachers, or that you're going to do anything like that. You just mentioned that you're going to offer this. So to me, that's not a plan, because you're saying, well, we're going to do this, but you're not telling me how is it that you're going to do that. Okay.
So maybe what we can add is in addition to then. The goal is to, in addition, that what we have is to increase the number of AP classes that we offer, and to increase the number of electives.
And I don't know if it says that, okay, but if it doesn't say it, because I don't want, and it's great that we want to offer opportunities for AP students, don't get me wrong. However, are we going to take away from the regular ed student? Are we going to take one section from that so because I don't think that's fair.
No, and that's not the plan.
Okay, so let's make sure that we mention that. You talk about student facilitators, a student facilitator. I'm assuming that will be another administrator.
No, the student well-being facilitator.
Yes,
That is the position when we used to have Mrs. Danasu Gonzalez. So she is certificated. She was certificated.
Okay,
That
so
would be the position.
Okay, so that's okay. So that's not an administrator. That's more like
A facilitator.
a facilitator, maybe like a counselor, like at a risk counselor, something like that.
It could be either or. I mean, depends on how it's flown, if it's a counselor or if it's a teacher.
But a student
But it's not an administrator.
special assignment. So that facilitator has direct contact with students.
With parents.
With parents. Okay,
With
so
parents and students.
okay, so it's direct contact. It's not somebody in an office doing
No,
paperwork.
not at all.
Okay. Director of Pupil Services, another director. I thought Mr. McFadden was, in past years, the director of Pupil Services. No? No? Okay, so there we go again. We need to talk about that, because that's another administrator here at the district office. So, once again, my personal feeling is that these monies should be used for direct contact with students and parents, not not to be housed at the district office when some of you guys could be doing the same thing. You guys, that's why you're an assistant soup, okay? So more to come on that. I liked what you mentioned, more proctors and crossing guards, because that's been an item, a hot item recently, especially with what just happened a couple of weeks ago. So more proctors and crossing guards. That is, I will support that idea 100%. You have two more coordinators. You have the EL coordinator and an assessment specialist. And the coordinator, of course, that will be the coordinator. The assessment specialist, that's another admin position.
The assessment specialist.
Is that a special assessment position? Okay.
Yes, that's not an admin.
Okay. And the EL coordinator?
The EL coordinator is the three coordinators that I mentioned was two coordinators for curriculum, one for elementary, one for secondary. And then the ELD coordinator would be the same. That we have an existing ELD coordinator, but since we have a population about 6,300 EL students, the recommendation is to have two coordinators, and it could be an elementary and a secondary EL coordinator.
Okay. So I see three coordinators. However, to manage the same amount of people that we have right now. But we're going to add three more coordinators to manage the same amount of people, because I didn't see the higher, it does say to provide CSEA members and Title I and things like that. But three more coordinators to manage more or less the same kind of the same amount of people that we have right now. But we're going to add three coordinators?
For year one? I mean, throughout
Yes,
year one,
yes,
2, and 3,
exactly.
that's the recommendation.
But who are they going to manage? Because we're not going to hire 100 more people. So who are they going to manage?
Okay, let's say that the EL coordinator is going to be hired to continue to provide and help with the service for our EL students, because we have so many EL students that we really need the additional support in that department. And with everything that we want to implement during years 1, 2, and 3, that's why we recommend it for the curriculum coordinators.
But if we want, instead of hiring one more coordinator, can we just, instead of hire two more ELD teachers? Okay, or more aides to work with those EL students at the high school, at the junior, or at any level. Could we do that instead? Because once again, a coordinator is somebody that is here at the district office or at an office. Okay, but the people with direct contact, in this case, a teacher's aide, okay, or a teacher, they will have more contact, and I think we will get more out of that money than just having an EL coordinator. That's just my my take. So, and those are my questions.
Thank you, Mr. Calderon.
I do have some questions. We had a group of teachers come up to the podium and talk about that there was some consultation, and somewhere in May there was a disconnect, and there was also mention of understanding or perception that there was going to be some review over the informal plan. What happened?
I know that in the month of May, probably the end of May, we did have an LCAP meeting with ACT members or our teachers.
Yeah,
and
there's
that-
listed
and
meetings
that
on
was
the 6th,
canceled.
the 9th, and the 28th.
What was that?
On the involvement process, you list meetings on the 7th of March, 26th of March, 4th of April, 30th of April, 6th of May, 9th of May, and the 28th of May. So how many of those were actual meetings?
No, those were actual meetings.
Okay.
According to the records that we have, those are actual meetings
Okay.
with signatures.
So,
There was one meeting that was pending that it was canceled.
okay, so where there was some discussion of an opportunity to review the provisional plan?
You're asking me if there's still an opportunity
No.
or if there was an opportunity?
Was that an understanding that between the district and the teachers group that they would have an opportunity to review the,
Yes, Ms. Ambrose is going, yes, that was.
okay, did that happen?
No, it didn't.
Why didn't it?
It was canceled.
Why? Thank you. Was there an effort to reschedule meetings? Okay. Yes, if I can have a copy from you, Ms. Ambrose and Mr. Cooper. I do have additional questions. So for the public's knowledge, when did we know about LCFF? That we had to implement it?
Oh, back.
Last spring, right?
Yeah.
Not this
Be-
spring, but maybe last
Way
spring?
before even the beginning of the school year.
That's right. And we, as a board, went to trainings, and in there, I'm not going to get too involved in terms of that, but one of the things that time and time again, I think I'm not the only one that asked about when are we providing information to our parents. At no point did I ever see anything on our district website. I know we had meetings with held for parents and so forth, but I don't see anything. I've right now in the time that you were presenting and I was listening, but I was also multitasking, and I have pulled up here 3 school districts where they've got the timeline, how it was met. They've got videos in English and in Spanish. They've got results of surveys. We have nothing like that, and in fact, I know that some of the LCFF meetings that were really poorly attended. So, what else besides those meetings was done to inform our community?
I know that one of the requirements for LCAP, the posting of the LCAP, right here it says the superintendent of school district shall post on the internet website on the school district any LCAP approved by the governing board. So once the LCAP is approved, then we will post it
No,
on the
I'm
website
talking
prior to.
informing. Yes, each of these websites has where I'll give you an example. McFarland has a videotape by the superintendent, has PowerPoint. What is the local LCFF? What makes LCFF different and better? What should LEAs do now, August 2013? St. Paul, they have the PowerPoint of the purpose of this committee. And in fact, it really caught my eye because this one, it says, prior to consideration of the plan by the board, the superintendent needs to provide the public an opportunity for review and comment. Therefore, there will be at least 2 public hearings on the LCAP, which will not be held at the same meeting where the plan is presented for adoption. This was, I'm just concerned that we're not meeting the engagement part, at least in my estimation. I feel like we had a lot of time to to share information and to gather information, and it feels rushed here at the last minute.
Okay.
I'll give you another one. At Elk Grove, gives the timeline. You know, break it down. What happens after the board approves it? I'm really disturbed. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Ms. Ortega. Okay. So now we will go into item E, public hearings. And the Board of Education will conduct a public hearing to allow public input regarding the district's proposed draft local control accountability plan, the LCAP. Time limits for public comments for the local control accountability plan will not apply. So, okay, so at this time, we're gonna open the public hearing. And it is 7:43. And I will take the comments. The first one, 3B, Sandra Alvarez. Okay. Okay.
My name is Annie Bury, and I'm here with Sandra Alvarez and Nerida Rubio representing elementary teachers. My name is Annie Urick, and I'm here with Sandra Alvarez and Elida Rubio representing elementary teachers from the school district. And we're going over, as we were going over the proposed LCAP plan that we have in front of us, we noticed that the class size reduction was not included. And one thing that all surveys had in common and was listed as a priority was the class size reduction issue. We ask you to listen to what the stakeholders deem as a priority, which in this case was the class size reduction. Thank you.
Can I just, you can scratch up my
Okay.
separate form. Well, I wrote down on CSR also, which is class size reduction. So first of all, one of my pet peeves in education is that we ignore the obvious. As professionals, we know what's best for children. We know, for example, that students come with issues from home, and we know that we need counselors for those students, and we call these things maybe things that are out of our circle of influence. Yet we know that if a child's personal, emotional, and primary needs are not met first, then their academic needs are at odds. They are not. They have the odds against them when they come with these issues and they're not resolved before they go into the classroom. So that's out of our circle of influence. The stuff that is in our circle of influence, for example, is class size reduction. There is money out there. The governor has given us money for class size reduction, and nowhere in this plan do we see that. As Annie mentioned, we have, I listed goals that are in the LCAP plan, and actually I think that the plan is on the right track for the most part. For goal number 4, which is college readiness, which means pupil achievement, I think that, well, I know that as if I had less students in my classroom, I would have those kids achieve so much more. Under goal 6, which is the school climate, and the school climate was defined as, the suspension rates and the referrals and all that stuff. But if the students who continually fail academically are most likely the ones who are misbehaving. They are the ones who have the referrals. So if I had less students in my classroom, I would have more one-on-one time with the students that are not doing so well academically. Therefore, we would avoid a lot of the misbehavior. For goal number 5, which is pupil engagement, obviously, actually in this one, for pupil engagement was defined as the improved attendance and decreasing the dropout rates. Well, again, if I have less students in my classroom, I would have more one-on-one time to motivate my students to be there, to make my class more exciting. I would have, for example, during the 105-degree weather, I could have PE in my class and make it fun. And I do, but you know, my kids are like running around, bumping into each other and bumping into desks. If I had less students, we would all fit nicely in the classroom. Goal number 9 says that we must increase the percentage of student achieving in English proficiency. Our program in the primary grades requires that we use a book that has pictures, and we're supposed to point to the picture and show the students, you know, what is the boy doing in this picture? And they're supposed to look at the picture and turn to their partner or just orally repeat what they see in the picture. With 30 students in my classroom, I can't do that. I have to project my picture, and the answer is supposed to be something like, this student is walking. But when my students are on that side of the room, they'll say that student is walking, which is right. But when I test my child, they are supposed to say exactly, this student is walking. So, you know, again, if I had less students, I would sit them all in the rug and I would point to a picture and they would be able to point and touch that picture and say this student is walking. You see what I'm saying? So less students will meet the needs of all these goals that we have. And then I don't remember which goal it was. It might have been goal number 1, but it said something about equitable access. And how is it equitable access when other schools in the valley are at lower class size and we in Calexico are at the maximum class size? Okay, yes, I did talk about a little bit about all these positions that are, you know, needed with coordinators and such. Effective leadership is key in academic success, but ultimately what happens in the classroom is what determines student success. I think that if we flip the way we're looking at this plan, instead of the top to the bottom, I think we should look at the bottom to the top. And really we call the bottom, but it's really the top. That's where the students are at. I think that I had one last thing, and this is, we all know that we will get better results with CSR. So we do need that class size reduction all over this plan. And I think that, Mr. Calderon, that answers the how. That will be like a number 1 priority. Because eventually, if we start with the lower class size with the little kids, it's a foundation. And we'll have a stronger building if we have a better foundation. Thank you.
Thank you,
I would
Ms.
just like
Ugo.
to say that I hope this gives you a bird's eye view that it has been thought out thoroughly by teachers. It's just not reflected totally in this plan, and class size reduction is a big issue. So we hope you'll reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Alvarez. All right. Next on the list, Mr. Cooper. Okay. Mr. Cooper, you have 2? You have 2?
Well, one's for the budget hearing that's
It's up to
coming
you.
next,
up
so
to you.
I'll reserve that second spot here.
Okay.
And I'll try to consider everyone's time, because it's very rare that I get unlimited time on this microphone. Okay. That that being said, the door's there, and anyways. Meetings with teachers. 9 meetings with administrators here at the district office where there aren't any students. 2 meetings with CSEA. For the most part, they work with students. 2 meetings with student groups. And 2 meetings, I guess, with parents, these external community groups. Right there, you don't have enough data, as Ms. Aguilar was saying, to construct a plan. And even the data that we did collect, I like you, Ms. Aguilar. Well, yeah, if you're a wonderful board member, yes, I like you. But also, similar to you, I should say, I've been looking at other LCAP plans, and they have, like, I don't miss them, but research papers where they've got annotations on where this idea came from. 43 parents said this, 33 parents said that, and that's missing. There's a vague Passover mention of that parents wanted more training. Who needs more training for students to do better is the students. And that's what I do. I teach students. And we need more teachers in the trenches. And that shouldn't come at a cost of good leadership. Good leadership is a commodity. But this whole plan, I find it unfortunate that the public hearing on the plan leaves, what's today, Monday? Then Tuesday and Wednesday, supposedly admin's going to be rewriting this plan based on today's input. I don't think so. That's disrespectful. Tonight you received the public's input on a document that was just revealed to them on Friday. And believe me, I've got the documentation to show where we were working closely with the district, and then they made a U-turn or they swerved into a canal or something because we were promised over and over again that we'd have an opportunity to see this and sit and ask the same questions like you and get answers, and that's been avoided. The district just has dropped the ball. I feel like I am Charlie Brown kicking the football. We wanted a written agreement on this. The lawyer and the superintendent wrote us a letter that we didn't file an unfair labor practice, even though we had a legal opinion that we could have. Why? Because what good would an unfair labor practice do when we had a timeline, right? And here we are with the timeline, and you're going to hear stuff today and then approve it on Thursday. Yet at the same time, if you don't approve it on Thursday, I don't know what that means. It's offensive. Here, we had a Mr. Urena's student here. Everybody else here, I believe, collects a paycheck from Calexico Unified. What happened to the public? We ran them out with the wordy presentation from the assistant super, who, by the way, didn't attend any of the meetings. So my hat's off to Hortensia for answering questions about meetings with teachers that she wasn't at. So who was there? Mr. Gonzalez, several principals here and there. The superintendent was there for the most part. Yet the assistant super presents. That just seems odd to me. So above and beyond everything else, I want you to talk to your friends and neighbors that have elementary kids in Imperial. Ask them what their class size is. Talk to your friends and neighbors who have kids in El Centro Elementary. Ask them what their class size is. And you're going to get numbers that are far lower than this district. Now, this district's going to tell you we're meeting the minimum requirements. I'm sorry. The LCFF is about providing a maximum education to those students who have the least. Who are the students that have the least? Well, statistically, I could prove Calexico is one of the neediest districts in the state of California. Parent trainings, I hate to say it, but you only really get the parents that are engaged already to a certain degree. The parents that are unable to be good parents, that turns to my elementary colleagues here. They are the pseudo-parents, and they need less students. So with a July 1st deadline looming, I don't know if you have the option to postpone this. I've talked to legislators. I had a conversation with actually Superintendent Torlikson, very brief, but I explained to him how we were being hijacked down here with the consultation process. When I saw him at a teachers union meeting, we're backing him for re-election, by the way. So sincerely, at this point, I almost say, what are we going to do different next year? that's almost where we're at now, because as far as I can tell, it's a July 1st deadline. And you read through this, it talks about buying $500,000 worth of radios and all sorts of other things that can't be top priority. And I ask you again, here at a public hearing, who's left? You ran out the public. That's got to stop, and you only had 2 meetings with them? And I'm part of your team here. I'm not here criticizing the school board. In fact, I agree with you, Ms. Aguilar and Mr. Calderon, now, today, more than ever. What are we going to do different next year? A big part of this plan is about recruiting and retaining the best teachers, yet I don't see anything in here on recruiting and retaining teachers. And we're at the midst of a teacher shortage in California again. And if you're fresh out of college, you get a lower class size and more money in El Centro and Imperial. And by the way, what I admire the most about Calexico is the Bulldog Pride, but there's only so much Bulldog Pride to go around. And my mortgage company doesn't accept that at the bank. I mean, so what are we doing to make this a better place for students to learn, et cetera, et cetera? Now, the district emailed us 3 times, I believe, could be 2, and they ask us, well, we need to move the meeting because we need more time. We need to move the meeting because we need more time. We need to move, and then the end of the school year is upon us, and where's our ability to talk to our teachers? And by the way, I've tried to schedule meetings with district administrators on their vacation before. They tell me, no, I'm on vacation. Yet who's here on their vacation? It's the teachers. So I ask you, school board, to get a plan to stop this from happening again next year. Because this is unacceptable to treat our students like this, and we're about to lose the local control that we wanted by going through this process in a haphazard way. What we wanted was a written document agreed to by both sides, would have held the district accountable. They wrote us a letter saying, no, we don't have to do that. We'll consult with you on your own terms. And I'm paraphrasing, but we'll consult with you when we feel like it. If we would have entered into a written agreement, this probably wouldn't have happened. So on that, I'm very sad that only 2 groups of parents got to speak about a plan. And I, of course, am not trying to state the obvious, but adding more administrators does very little unless you also pair that with more teachers in lower class size. Most of your teachers here don't need another workshop. What they need is more room to do their job. And with that, thank you for indulging me. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. All right, next is...
Mr. Chair, I just want to share with you that in the timeline for Elk Grove, they built in August 2014, districts will update accountability plans in 2014 budgets based on adopted state budget. Just for your information.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Now you have me thinking. Okay, next on the list, Claudia Mesa.
Hi, I'm Claudia, and I'm here to kind of piggyback on what they already said with the class size reduction. Implementing that would need more teachers, and in order to retain teachers, I think it's a problem that Calexico is having. The previous 3 years, I worked at the ANSA, where they always had a hard time hiring teachers. Each year they hire teachers and then let them go. They hire teachers and let them know. They're always in need, especially of math teachers for some reason. But nowhere in the LCAP did I see anything about the retention of teachers or possibly a raise for teachers in order to retain them. I mean, when I came to this district in 2009, I took a pay cut. to come here. And last year I was offered a job in El Centro, and it was tempting, but the only thing that actually kept me here was my benefits. Had it not been for my benefits, I would have left, because I mean the pay is so much better in El Centro. So I would suggest maybe considering something like that. I know that I wasn't here the last time there was a raise given here in Calexico, but I mean everybody else in the valley seems to be getting raises, and teachers are talking about going to other districts. So then we're gonna be left with no teachers, and how are we gonna implement class size reductions when nobody wants to come to Calexico? And also, class size reduction is a big issue. I work here in Calexico, and it'd be convenient to have my daughters here in Calexico, but I don't, because I see kindergarten, first grade, second grade with like 30 students, where when I put my daughter in kindergarten elsewhere, it was 18 students. Right now she's a fourth grader, and she was in a room of 24. So I think, it would be convenient for me to bring her to Calexico, but at the same time, it's like I'd actually be hurting her. Right now, this year, I'm at Aurora, where our cap is at 25. Not to show off to you guys. But we have a cap of 25 students, and I mean, I see the difference. I'm able to walk around, the students raise their hand, and I'm there. I can help them better. They seem to like it. I mean, the Aurora students are really happy there, because they say, they learn more. And I think it has a lot to do with the teacher having that time to give them more one-on-one attention when they need the help. Because otherwise, when I was working at the other schools, I've been at Kiki, I've been at the ENSA, I mean, you're hurrying up, you're trying to help the students, they raise their hand, you don't have enough time, it's just, come after school. I mean, students don't want to come back after school, and over here I have more time to address their questions when they actually have them. Even though our periods are shorter than they were elsewhere, I have the time. It's amazing how much time I have to dedicate to my students when they have questions, and being able to help them. It makes a difference to them, and it makes a difference to me as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mess. Okay. Next in the list is Mr. Raúl Ureña.
All right. Good evening, everyone. My name is Raul Ureña, Calexico High School student, almost a senior, almost out. What's it called? I'm a nervous train wreck right now. I'm absolutely not prepared, and I'm gonna blame it on you. I'm gonna blame it on you because I was out for some seminar. What was it, during the week? I came back Saturday, and the first thing I do, obviously, whenever I come back from a trip, is I don't call my mom. I call Miss Butner. And to ask her, what's been going on here at Calexico, the school district. And she tells me, they're going to approve this plan. They're having some sort of hearing on LCAP. And I think to myself, already? Gee, I only had one chance to speak with the superintendent about the issues that affect me as a student. And it wasn't just me alone with Miss Ambris. It was in a room of 60 kids. And that was only once. And later on, I did meet her at, I believe it was a migrant committee meeting, and I did express my views there a lot, but to the extent, to the implications of LCAP are great. It's a lot of money. But yet, you would think that with the big implications of LCAP, the same proportion of care would be put into getting the feedback from the people. Yet it was not. And I concur with, I believe it was Mr. Cooper, Ms. Aguilar, who brought that up. Now, so out of this, what do you get? When you have no feedback, no proper feedback from people, what is it that you get? You get a plan that is the same old, administrative, the same, what, while I was reading through this on the Saturday night, just rushing to get everything in my head as fast as possible, the thing I thought of was just more top-down, more bureaucracy, more waste of time. I could not identify how the district liaison, or whatever that fancy position is, how that would affect me. I probably won't even see this person. This person would probably be cradled up in his office with Microsoft Word, just tinkering around, trying to figure out what I need, when I can just come here and tell it to you for free. But yet nobody will listen to me. Seriously, I've been here for 3 whole years and I've seen nothing change. Nothing, not even with an election. And it is because you have so much administrators and you rely so much on your administrators, you forget the teachers, you forget the classified, you forget me. I have not seen change in Calexico High School with the changing of a principal, with the building of a fence. All I've seen is this whole school district go down the toilet. Now, we get more money. Cool. Let's waste it on administrators. What about the cat orgy that happens at Calexico High School every night? You don't know. Okay, let me explain. Goodness. I would think you would know about this, but apparently you don't. You know the trailer side of Calexico High School, correct? Under those trailers, there is a multitude of cats, and all they do is poop and have sex in there. That's all they do, and nobody seems to care. And yes, we do need sex education. So that's going on. We have birds pooping on us as we walk throughout campus. We have horrible infrastructure. We have wires just crisscrossing the thing. Facilities are a mess. But yet, like Mr. Cooper said, you're putting $500,000 on radios, where I could only calculate about $4,200 on facilities throughout the whole school district. I mean, just thinking in logical terms, let's assume that all this bureaucracy somehow is benevolent, somehow is all-knowing, and somehow will be beneficial. This LCAP is a bailout. How are we going to sustain the growth that we are putting in the bureaucracy? How do we sustain that? This, as far as I know, all this funding stops at 3 years after the implementation, and by that time you're supposed to have a nice, vibrant school district that's supposed to be solvent and working towards the future, and not acting as if it's going to depend off those funds. Where is the logic in that? I mean, obviously these people have a knowledge problem, and by these people I mean administrators. I'm not saying they're stupid. I'm using it as an economics term, meaning that any person that's at the very top will always have a knowledge problem. Why will they have a knowledge problem? Because they're so isolated? Because they probably don't have the proper incentives to care for what I think. I mean, let's be realistic. Everybody in here is self-interested. You can see that only 2 people here are not collecting a paycheck, like Mr. Cooper said. How do you expect these people, how do you expect this school district to function when the institutions and the incentives are not properly placed? And it's reflected in everyone's character, it's reflected in the school district, and it's disgusting. I feel bad for this school district, and I'm glad I'm leaving. 75.2% of my fellow Bulldogs will graduate. 75.2%, 3 out of 4. It's not that hard to graduate. It really isn't. I mean, the standards are set so low that just about anyone can graduate, and yet they lack the incentives and support to meet that very, very low bar. It's in our character, and it has to change quick. We need to change our philosophy, institutions, our incentives. All right, so that's the abstract. That's the foundation. Let's start talking specifics. All right, so let me take a breath. All right, our dropout rate. What can we do there? Sexual education, very important. We have I haven't had sexual education in this school district since 9th grade, and it was HIV only. Not very informative. Before that, it was 7th grade, and that was a little bit more comprehensive, but yet it was abstinence-based, and therefore not very effective. And the only reason I know very much about sexual education is because I work for Planned Parenthood. I know what a proper age-appropriate, sexually comprehensive curriculum should look like, and it looks nothing like that. And I've pulled up the actual ed code that tells the school district, which by the way is the law, you're supposed to have a comprehensive sex ed program, and it even has like a little checklist. And 11 categories, you know, it should apply to all of the genders. It should apply to this, and that. It should teach this. There should be a portion of specifically for English learners. And I could only check off 2 of those boxes because of how uncomprehensive the sexual education program is here at Calexico High School. Compare it to Southwest, compare it to Central, we don't have sexual education. You have kids at Calexico High School who still think that if you have sex with a virgin, you will never have an STD. You will have students who think that through mutual masturbation, one can get pregnant. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you have to understand that the school here often ends up in the position of compensating for what the children don't learn at home. And this is one of those topics. Maybe they come, for example, I believe someone mentioned they might come from violent homes. We have to compensate for that. Don't whine about it. Compensate for it. Tell them they're not supposed to hit other kids. Tell them that they don't have to do this, and that. Tell them how society functions, and don't be a hypocrite about it. Please, don't tell me I'm not supposed to verbally abuse other kids, and yet when I go to any office at Calexico High School, I'm treated with disrespect, I'm treated with bad service, and honestly a bitchy attitude. It's enough. Absenteeism. Again, improve the school climate. Improve it. Incentives, bring about good incentives. Look at it through a behavioral economics perspective. Think about what a student's cost-benefit analysis is. What do I care about? What do I want? What's my incentive to go to school, to do well? Whatever, figure it out. School climate. Peer court. Peer court is actually a really good program. I was in it last year. Directed by Miss Ashley Reitzma, which, by the way, is a very, very nice teacher. And yet, this peer court was never used throughout the whole school year. What am I more inclined to believe? Either A, there was no suspensions throughout the whole school year, or B, the administrators did not have any faith in us or any trust in us to send us a student so that we could use the program. Anyone like to answer? It's obviously the latter one. Parent Advisory Committee. You plan to hire some sort of whole bunch of bureaucratic entities whose purpose is to somehow stimulate parental involvement. I could do all of that for you for free. I could start a parent-student alliance. I could start these things, and you could too if you wanted to. In fact, it's your job. And yet it's not being done. Why? Case in point, enough top-down, enough administrators. Let's get to the things that actually matter, yes? Yes? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ureña. Next on the list, Mr. Taylor.
Good evening. In the last month, I've spoken to the board and the district about the trend of positive collaboration and communication between the district and its teachers. I feel the spirit of this collaboration breaks when a promised meeting to discuss the LCAP plan is continuously postponed until time has run out. Our teachers and students obviously care about what happens with the LCAP plan. We're here tonight speaking out about it. Keep this in mind when hopefully we have a chance to revise it, because what has happened with the plan does not represent what we need the most in this district. That's all I have to say tonight. I had more, but our teachers and our students said it very eloquently. So that's it. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Okay. Ms. Veronica Torres.
Good evening. My name is Veronica Torres. I'm a third grade teacher. And I just, wanted to go back to goal 9. Mr. Ureña, you said everything eloquently. He said everything that we wanted to say, in fact. But I want to go to goal 9 on English learners. I'm looking at the year 1 plan where it says elementary level EL students will engage in systematic ELD program. That's already happening. So I don't know what is different. We will explore and pilot supplemental programs. If we don't know what programs to use for our ELD students by now, something's wrong. Something really needs to change there in what kind of programs we're using and what we're doing with our EL students. So in that note, being a third grade teacher, I get students who come from second grade not ready for third grade English. I am a sheltered English immersion teacher, but we teach the majority of our subjects, everything is in English. We provide some support to students in Spanish, but there's nothing that you can do with students that are at a level 1 English most of the times without support. So instead of creating new positions for at an administrative level, we need positions being created that where people can actually go into our classrooms and provide us with that support with those EL students. And I'm telling you, because as a third grade teacher, I see those kids come into my classroom, they hit the wall, they cry, the parents are dismayed, they get angry at us, like it's our fault that they're coming into an all-English classroom not prepared academically for the language that we're using. And it's very frustrating for them. And we seem to be the enemy for these parents because it seems like it's our fault that all these years since kinder they have not been able to acquire enough English to succeed in the classroom. So we need to find a way in this plan, in that goal number 9, where it's detailed enough to say what are we doing for these bilingual students that are also transitioning into all English. I do know that we are starting to phase off, out of the bilingual classrooms, but there's still students coming in. The reality is that we do get students from Mexicali, and whether we want to recognize it or not, because we get that money from the state for every student that attends. And I'll tell you for a fact, because I had students in my classroom this year, and I got tired of complaining that I know they live in Mexicali, and a lot of those students don't have the motivation to learn English. So we need to find a way to reach those students. And those students are also the ones that are causing behavior issues in our classroom. Not because they want to, they just don't understand the subject. They don't have enough language to succeed. So we need to find ways to reach those students in the classroom. And let me tell you, having 30 students in the classroom, I cannot do that. And I think I'm speaking for a lot of teachers. But if we're gonna increase the performance level of these students, and I'm not just looking at the CEL test, because the CEL test, listening and speaking test, a little writing test, a little bit of comprehension, but that is nothing compared to what the reality of what is being learned in the classroom represents. So we need to prepare these students to learn the academic language that they need, and the teachers need that support. Those students need that support, and I don't see that anywhere here. How are those kids? Yeah, they're going to do good in the CEL test. Is that just what we want? Is that our goal? Or do we want them to succeed academically in the classroom? And, and doing good in a CEL test is not going to show that they're succeeding in the classroom. I'm sorry, but it's not. So when we look at this plan, and yes, I just saw the plan today because I'm doing summer school, and I didn't have time this weekend because I went to a Dodger game with all right, to enjoy myself a little bit and doing summer school. So this is all I can say on this account, that we need to provide support for those EL students, and we have to have a definite plan. Not just, I'm sorry, this sounds like the same old, same old. So thank you very much for listening tonight.
Thank you, Ms. Torres. Okay, moving on to still public hearings. Item number 2, Okay, so at this point, we're going to close the LCAP public hearing at 8:22. All right, and moving on to item number 2 on item E, the Board of Education will conduct a public hearing to allow input regarding the district's proposed draft budget for 2014-2015, and I believe we have a comment. Yes. Okay, thank you. Yes. Hold on, can we just take a short 5-minute break again? Thank you. Les? So once again, item E, number 2, the Board of Education will conduct a public hearing to allow input regarding the district's proposed draft budget for 2014-2015.
Okay, before you open the public hearing, I'm just going to do a brief presentation regarding the budget and what you're going to see on the budget for adoption on Thursday. Oh, excuse me one second.
Go.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay. So this is the 2014-15 adopted budget report for the public hearing. The budget information, what will be inclusive in the budget for the estimated actuals, the estimated ending balances for the 13-14 fiscal year, and our initial budget for the 14-15 fiscal year are presented here for review and for approval, and there is a copy on. This is what will happen on Thursday for approval. There is a draft copy of the budget on the agenda for review, for anybody to review. By Ed Code, the district is required to adopt a budget for all funds for the current year and for 2 of the subsequent fiscal years, and it has to be done by June 30th. At the same time, the district presents its estimated actuals and financial results for the current fiscal year. When the budget is being built, the district utilizes its most up-to-date information and forecasts that it receives from the California Department of Education, which is CDE and ICOE. The district, when budgeting, maintains its best fiscal practices. What you're going to see in the budget, and it's final, it's in the draft as well as it will be in the final version for adoption on Thursday, is the 28.05% of the LCFF gap funding, which will allow us to calculate the state aid funding. And again, these numbers could change as we update and review the May revise information and the actual state's enacted budget. What's in the budget are changes in statutory benefits as our rates change. That has to be inclusive in the budget and accounted for. Federal revenues that will receive a 4.5% increase is inclusive in the budget. Budgeted are the district's approved indirect cost rates and what effects that has on the budget. The federal sequestration, and we assume cuts, and I don't have that exact percentage at this time, but it will be represented and presented on the Thursday meeting for adoption. Lottery funds were budgeted based on the school services dartboard, which will be included in the budget. Mandated cost block grant will be inclusive in the budget, and those are some of the different calculations. The Common Core Standards implementation will be inclusive in the budget. Prop 39 funds will not be inclusive in the budget. K-3 grade span adjustment will be inclusive in the budget. Lottery funds will be inclusive in the budget based on the school services dartboard. And the state categorical programs will reflect a flat funding in the budget. Also, all of the items that were presented in the LCAP this evening will be included in the budget and presented on Thursday. Currently, there is a draft of the budget which was uploaded for this meeting, and it's available for public view online as well as here at the district office at the reception area and on our website. And the district's final, to view the district's final adopted budget, it will be available for public view on our website and loaded to our agenda for the June 26th meeting on tomorrow. Are there any questions?
Has this been provided to the local media?
The
budget?
It's available in draft form on our website, so yes.
No, but I mean, did you contact the media to let them know that now we have a balanced budget?
Oh, I'll be happy to report that on Thursday. No, I'm not kidding. But I hadn't at this time had an opportunity to speak to the media just because it's still in its draft form.
Yeah.
But once we finalize it tomorrow, I'm sure they'll give me a call and I'll be able to report that information to them.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any further questions? Thank you, trustees.
Thank you. So now we're going to open this public hearing for the proposed budget for 14-15 at 8:34 p.m. Do we do comments before? Before. Okay. I have a request for time to talk to us from Mr. Chad Cooper.
Good evening. In looking at the history of the budgets, I've always seen a budget that's been balanced in the last 5 years and our increasing amount of reserves. So I'm a little concerned that we might still be confusing cash flow for reserves. So the other thing I'm concerned about is I haven't had a chance to look at Thursday's agenda, although I wouldn't be I wasn't at a Dodger game, I was out of town. So I'm confused on whether if we're qualified or whatnot. So I'll watch the video on Thursday, or whenever it's posted thereafter, because again, I won't be able to attend the meeting. And I'm going to point out the obvious. Again, the public that could have been here to give their input, they've left. Other than us, who are also members of the public, but a vested interest, as Raul said. How would this even work if public input was taken and then the budget document's really going to be revised before Thursday? That doesn't seem like it's possible or plausible, I should say. So maybe in forthcoming years, we can have this budget hearing while there's still time to at least pretend to take the public's input into consideration. I've got no doubt that we're going to be getting a cost of living increase. Why? Because there's only so many teachers to go around. But in looking at your budget, I am going to try not to be sarcastic, but it seems like you're living in a different California because you've budgeted 0 cost of living increase. And I just filled up my gas tank, and my little fuel efficient car took nearly $55. So the cost of living's gone up since I first got hired here in '05, which was last time we had a cost of living increase. So in looking at your budget, school board, I see that you're talking about negotiations at the next meeting. I find it kind of odd that you'd really think that, well, the average raise has been, well, we've seen school districts get raises between 3 and 7% for this current year, plus more money for next year. So we're looking at double digits over 2 years. And yet in Calexico, the board adopted budget is 0. Now I know that's subject to negotiation, but I'm here at a public hearing, so I'd advise you to talk to your business department about getting ready to realize that prices have gone up since '06. My $80 airfare to Las Vegas used to cost me $29. I was looking through some old email today. I used to fly there for $29 in '06. Now I'm up to $80. And not that that's just one comparison. Gas, the other thing, cost of living, and you're going to be in competition for teachers. That's something else in this budget I'd look for, is how are you going to recruit these teachers? Because other districts have already posted vacancies for next year. Well, this year, this district's kind of sputtering on posting vacancies. And class size reduction. Although it's great to hear that the school districts, and this is a sincere compliment, that you're planning to follow the law on class size reduction, because we'll talk about QIA another night about how you guys threw out all that money, along with the $400,000 for Title I that you sent back recently. But if we're going to lower class size, that's got to be in the budget also. I know that adding admins in the budget because it's in black and white, but how about adding teachers? And our students need the teachers. You may see me as a union thug, but that's a popular term, right? If you watch Fox News, okay? But really, we need some good teachers here. And how do you attract the best teachers and keep the best teachers? One way is giving them enough money to pay their bills. And I don't think we're being modest in saying that the cost of living's gone up since 2006, and not by 1 or 2%, but by a lot more than that. And our beginning salaries still under 40, which is very, very hard. It puts you in a hard place to recruit teachers. But like I say, we're going to get a cost of living increase. I'm confident of that because NCLB says you got to have credentialed teachers. So let's work together and settle this in an afternoon or 2 afternoons, maybe 3, like the other districts, because I do not want to be protesting at any time. I'd rather be here attending a Student of the Month award ceremony or Teacher of the Year or such not. Thank you for my input, and again, I hope that we do this better next year because I don't see how you're going to change the budget in the next couple days. That just doesn't seem likely. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. Any more comments? I have as a member of this community. I have to close it. Okay. So at this point, I will close the public hearing on the budget for 14-15 at 8:40. Thank you. Okay. So I do have a couple of or maybe just one comment regarding this this plan or budget that was put together, and being able to see how other districts do business, it attracts my attention, for the lack of better words, that what other districts are doing to attract teachers. And I know our main our forte is our insurance, because I don't think, other than Coachella, I think we are the only other district that has 100% insurance benefits. So that might be a strong point for teachers to come, or a strong argument for teachers to come and work here. However, we need to keep up with the times. Okay, we need to keep up with the times, and I'm not even talking about, at this point, I'm not even talking about raises and things like that, because that's negotiations, and that's something else. But doing things in the right way, in a timely manner. By doing this, I have a lot of issues with the way that this plan looks. However, 2 days until we have to adopt this plan or approve it, I'm just afraid that we're not gonna be able to have time, or that we're not gonna be able to fix what needs to be fixed if the rest of the board would also feel the same way. So now my question is to Ms. Ambriz is, what happens, and not only for my peace of mind, but also for the rest of the community, what happens if we don't adopt this LCAP by July 1st?
Understanding of what will happen if the district does not adopt the LCAP and then the adopted budget is that we will revert back to the 2013-14 budget, and at that point the county becomes involved, and it's almost to the point to where we go back into a situation where they have stay and rescind authority, and they have complete oversight of the district's budget, and at that point there are some other timelines that are put in place as to when the district has to adopt the budget and the LCAP. So it kind of will revert back to, again, the county having authority over the district at that point in time.
So even if amendments want to be considered, I mean, based on that timeline,
It is a very tight timeline.
Yeah.
I would possibly recommend this. Perhaps the board would consider approval with condition.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's a matter of wanting to revise some items on the LCAP, which would also have to be inclusive in the budget, or removing something and then adding something, perhaps we can schedule a meeting prior to the July 23rd board meeting and give some opportunity to revisit the LCAP and perhaps hear the plan in its entirety as to what perhaps the district's idea was, and give some more collaboration time, or present it. And or if the board has some suggestions as far as, we like the idea except for we want to see X, Y, and Z, so we can conditionally approve it with X, Y, and Z added to the LCAP, which in turn it would be added to the budget, and we'd have some time to revise the budget and bring it back, and at least not necessarily bring the budget back, but bring the changes back to the board and show this is what we've done, and revise our 14-15 budget.
Not to mention what I pointed out with that other school district, that they talked about coming back after the budget has been signed and revising.
Correct. In every other scenario, and just kind of state law, once the state adopts their budget, sometimes there are changes that are significant to the budget. Like, say, for instance, if they give us $50 million additional dollars, well, of course, we need to update our budget to incorporate that $50 million. So they give us a 45-day window after budget adoption to revise our district budget to reflect the changes that the state has imposed or given the district. So there is some time frame to revise it, but it does need to be adopted and approved prior to July 1st in order to keep control here at the school board level and not allow the county to have the authority over our purchasing and spending.
So, in the event if it was the wishes of the board, it could be approved subject to those conditions, or?
Correct. So say if the wish of the board was to add 5, 10 teachers or something along those lines, then you as a board could say, we're going to adopt the LCAP with the condition that in its final form in 45 days, we'd like to see what it looks like in the budget with how 10 teachers or
X amount of
whatever it
teachers.
is
Okay.
that you're proposing.
Or
at
other
that time.
expenses.
Or other expenses,
Okay.
which would additional supplies and materials to students and so on and so forth. So that could be an option.
I think we need to have the remainder of the board here to give some type of direction.
Exactly.
I agree, and this is a public hearing, so it wouldn't take place here because we cannot get direction or even take action here today. So it would be on Thursday,
On
more
Thursday,
than likely, that
yes.
if that were the will of the board or the direction
The
of the
direction.
board to direct
Yes.
the administrator to do that, then it would have to happen as an action item while approving the LCAP.
Okay, so we have to put it on the board agenda.
It is
to-
on, you're correct, and it is on the agenda for approval on Thursday.
Okay, but do we have to say anything else that we want to approve it with certain conditions, or we can,
You give direction.
at
I
that point?
believe you would
at that
approve it
point,
as is, but then you would give direction.
At that point?
That is
Okay.
correct.
Perfect. But those were my comments and questions. Ms. Aguilar?
I just want to share that I was share with the board that I've been working with Ms. Lupita Cesena in regards to reaching out and recruiting college students in order to fill those jobs at the after-school program. She ran into some difficulties today because apparently nobody informed her that there was a need to run the changes of the job description by the board. I know I shared it with you, but it was never presented to us as a board. So now she may need to, it needs to come before us because I guess there was changes to the job description as well as the pay scale, and so that's the problem she ran into. So I'm just giving us as a board and our administration, our superintendent, that I guess there was not an ability to add it to the agenda, by Thursday. Although there may be some language in Ed Code that might add it to, I don't know. But in any case, it may involve a special board meeting, because otherwise it'll run into July, and the other thing is that a workshop was scheduled for having those students upload their application on the 30th. Workshop to take place at San Diego State. So if we can't fit in another board meeting, that'll have to be canceled. Just want to share, I really, once again, I am, and I continue to be concerned about the way we continually fall short of informing our community on changes that we're doing, on things that we're doing. Again, I'm pleading to our administration and to our board members to really push that we make those changes, because I too, like Mr. Ureña said, I'm tired of running up against these things. We shouldn't have to. We're the biggest school district in Imperial County, and we should have a better way of really reaching out to our community. It reminds me of that poem that anybody could have done it, and nobody did it because everybody thought somebody was going to do it, and then nobody ended up doing it. Okay, that's all I got.
Thank you, Ms. Aguilar. Ms. Ortega?
I've already made my questions.
Thank you. Well, if there's no more objections or questions, this meeting is adjourned. It's 8:51.